Your stories don't define you. How you tell them will. Hi, I'm Sarah Elkins, your host and chief storymaker of Elkins Consulting. Many of my clients reach out to me because they're in transition. Their children are hitting milestone ages. They want more from their work. They're hitting a big number birthday. And they want to develop clarity about their natural strengths, what their next adventure might look like. In this series, you'll hear me ask my guests questions to dig deeply into the stories that shaped their lives, stories that uncover patterns and may unveil insights into dissatisfaction, and also where their strengths lie and where they've found and continue to find joy. This podcast's intention is to have listeners think of their own related stories and how they tell them, discovering the internal messages that are limiting their success, and discovering how to shift their stories so they become positive life lessons to move them forward. If you're curious about what it would be like to work with me, visit elkinsconsulting.com and schedule a one-time 90-minute StrengthsFinder session. Episode 228. Uncommon storytelling tip number 4. Avoid future regret. To be a good storyteller, you have to be a story maker. On my hike the other day, I saw a woman with an infant in her backpack. It brought back such great memories of spending time like that with my boys when they were little. I said, "People say time goes by really fast with littles, and that's absolutely true. What they don't often tell you is that by acknowledging these moments, these daily experiences, being mindful of them, you'll still miss them when they're grown, but you won't face regret about how you spent their childhood." It got me thinking about how we can avoid future regret. Uncommon storytelling tip. Make your future stories by taking action every day to avoid future regret. A few months ago, I shared a podcast about planting seeds every day. When my mood, motivation, and energy are low, I often think about what seeds I can plant for future income and healthy relationships. I know that if I take just a couple of small steps, small actions, I may shift myself out of a mood like that. And if it doesn't work, I'll still feel like I did something productive that day. One seed I planted last week was that I called a member of my network and let them know what I was working on. The other seed was that I made a lovely dinner for my spouse. I knew that sitting at the dinner table together was good for my relationship. After my interaction with that mom on the mountain, I realized these seeds can also be used when I think about avoiding future regret. There are so many things about being self-employed that I am overjoyed with. My flexible schedule, the fact that I've found something I'm really good at and that people value, and that I'm not necessarily trading time for money in a traditional sense. I'll often make a list of outcomes for my day, and when they're complete, I'll take a nice long hike or make a plan for a date with a friend. Being self-employed isn't easy by any stretch. Some days I just want someone to tell me what to do, give me a list of tasks to complete, and keep me accountable. Those are the days I could spend surfing LinkedIn or Instagram and not accomplishing anything. It's those days that come to mind when I think about planting seeds, considering what step I can take in that moment to produce future income. But that's not always enough to get me started. This week's aha moment came in the form of understanding the power of regret. Regret can be a powerful motivator or an easy way out. It's an easy way out when we decide that it's too late. Looking back at things we could have done better, those times we can see in the rearview mirror where we made a poor decision, hurt someone, damaged our relationships, or made a bad career decision, and deciding that there's nothing we can do about them because they're in the past. Seeing regret that way gives us an easy excuse not to take action today. If you believe you don't deserve a good life, healthy relationships, and meaningful work because of your past, you will continue down that path, guaranteed. And that's easy, right? To let go of personal responsibility for your future? You've decided that you don't have control, so why try? Or regret can be a powerful motivator. You can choose to see those past decisions as errors in judgment, as your humanity on display, and then decide that every day from now on, you will build the life you deserve. You will make choices every day that earn the life you envision for yourself. I remember conversations with a former client a few years ago. She said, I want to have a side hustle so I have cash for travel and savings. And I created a pattern for this really cool bag I can sew and sell. My friends have all loved them and even said they'd buy some from me. Okay, Laura, do you have materials available? Or is this something you'd have to invest in? Do you have a room set up for sewing so you don't have to put things away and take everything out each time you start a project? Oh, I have boxes and boxes of fabric to use, and the guest bedroom is set up and ready to go. It's just a matter of finding the time to sew the bags. How long does it take you to make one? About 15 minutes. Can you get faster at it if you pre-cut a bunch of pieces and make a sort of assembly line? Once you get started and get moving, I'll bet you can put out 6 or 7 in an hour, right? Laura said, oh yes, and I can pay my grandson a few dollars an hour plus cookies to help me. That's great. How about this? How about you make 2 between now and our next session next week so I can see them? I'd love to see what your pattern looks like. That should take you around 30 minutes, right? Okay. 10 days later, she said, I was just too tired and frustrated after work. It was so busy and my job is just so discouraging. My energy just wasn't there. At the end of our session, I asked her if she would try again. Just make 2 bags before our next session. The same thing happened. She was so discouraged by her day job that she'd come home, make dinner, watch TV, maybe read for an hour and go to sleep. Some evenings were spent enjoying babysitting grandkids. Our coaching relationship ended after our 3rd session, even though we had 6 scheduled. When she hadn't taken a single step toward her idea, we agreed that this wasn't the right time for her to invest money and energy, and that we'd follow up in a year. As we wrapped up that last session, I said, Laura, do you have any regrets about the past few weeks working with me? She said, even though I took some time after our first session to organize my sewing room to make it easier to get started, I regret that I didn't sew at least 1 bag. I hear ya. Do you regret anything about the past couple of years? Oh, yes, definitely. I know this bag could generate cash that would make my life a little simpler and better, and I could have used that cash to visit my mom more before she died. Backing up. Yes, definitely. I know this bag could generate cash that would make my life a little simpler and better, and I could have used that cash to visit my mom more before she died. Laura, that's sad. Have you considered what you could have done to avoid that regret when you think back now? She chuckled. Well, for starters, I could have sewn a few bags to see if this idea was worth working on. One more question for you, my friend. Are we going to have this exact same conversation a year from now? That you regret this past year because you didn't take a step and get started? Are you going to look back 5 years from now and be disappointed in yourself, wondering what the heck was stopping you from at least trying this out? Thinking back now, what I said to that sweet mom on the mountain about enjoying the moments with her little one, about making sure she was being mindful about the time she spent with him, even when it's hard with tantrums and potty training and teen years. I realized I wasn't necessarily following my own advice, at least not in a way that I could truly avoid future regret for my time right now. So what does that look like for me today, tomorrow, and almost every day next week? It looks like making a decision to do something, to take a step that my future self will thank me for. Take a break, go for a hike because I know the fresh air will refresh me, and my future self will be grateful that I took care of my body and mind in this way. Make a couple of calls to past clients or to check in with someone in my network that might have a couple of introductions for me. Someone who knows my talent and is eager to see me succeed. People want to help. And my future self will thank me for taking these steps now to ensure future income. Create content, or at least an outline for my next online course or keynote presentation topic. My future self will be so grateful for the content already generated, and I'll know I'll have scalable, positive impact for future clients. I'll check in with my mom because I know I will regret not doing this more often when I can't. Someday, hopefully way out in the future. I'll take 10 minutes to stretch my body, to do some basic exercising like planking or push-ups, because I know my future self will be really disappointed if I lose my agility, my flexibility, and my strength to do the things I love to do so much, like hiking, kayaking, and playing with my kids and my dogs. I'm choosing to make avoidance of future regret a powerful motivator. How about you? What will you do today that your future self will thank you for? If you're not sure, my new Discovering Clarity course might be a good place to start. I describe it as a 5-course menu. It's always a food analogy for me, isn't it? You'll start with taking inventory about what you enjoy now, what brings you some satisfaction, so that you aren't overwhelmed when you look at the menu. And then diving into that menu of hundreds of opportunities in front of you to decide which bite you'll take first. All the while knowing that whatever you choose doesn't have to be a big commitment. You can come back to the menu anytime. In fact, I encourage you to take inventory and work through this process regularly. If you know what you need to do, you have the steps in front of you and you're just struggling to start, maybe you just need someone or something to help keep you accountable. I have a few resources that I would be glad to share. Just schedule a free discovery call and we'll get you started toward avoiding future regret. Thank you.